What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talker Sport to Jake. Hope we're all doing well. Let's backtrack with the NBA playoffs to Thursday of last week, April 30th. The Knicks absolutely destroy the Atlanta Hawks 140 to 89. An absolute drubbing. The Knicks were up by 61 at one point in the third quarter. They were up by, I think it was 47 or 48 points at the half. They win by 51. It was I think the largest halftime deficit of a playoff game in NBA history. Might have been the most lopsided playoff game ever. Certainly was in Knicks history in terms of a win. Might have been in the NBA, so just an absolutely wild blowout. Knicks at one point were on a 67 to 13 run. Like the first 2 minutes of the game was kind of back and forth, and then maybe like the first maybe 7 minutes or so. After that, the Knicks in the fourth quarter pretty much light off because they were up by so much, so they didn't really play anybody. But the next 2.5 quarters, the Knicks might have outscored the Hawks by almost 60 points. It was just absolutely absurd. OG, I know we have a big game, 29-7 for him, including 4 threes. They got 24 out of Mikal Bridges even. While he hasn't had a good year. This Atlanta just got nothing. Jalen Johnson, 21, 8, and 6. The only guy even remotely showed up. CJ McCollum was just 4 of 13 for 11 points. The Alexander Walker was just 3 of 8 for 11 points. Dyson Daniels was 1 for 4. Kenny was 2 of 6. Just only 4 guys were double figures. That was Jalen Johnson, McCollum, and Walker, who did not look good at all, only had 11. And then Jonathan Kuminga had 11 off the bench with just 3 of 7 shooting. Just a horrifically bad blowout loss for the Atlanta Hawks. In your own building is just embarrassing. Knicks blow out the Hawks in really the last 3 games of the series, but an historic one in Game 6. They move on. They move on to the second round of the NBA playoffs. We had the Sixers beat the Celtics. This was in Game 6, 106 to 93. 30 burger for Tyrese Maxey. I think him, Embiid, Paul George, and VJ Edgecombe combined for like 84 or 86 points of the 106. And Philly wins to age of 17 and 11. Gets hurt at the end of the game. Sixers force a game 7. And the Timberwolves beat the Nuggets shorthanded. 110 to 98. No Anthony Edwards, no Dante DiVincenzo. Didn't even have Ayo Dosunmu, who in game 4 had 43 off the bench. Got hurt at the end of game 5. If a calf, if it doesn't play in game 6, been 110 to 98. Jane Daniels with 32 and 10. Big game for him. 28, 9, and 10, and then lost for Jokic. Timberwolves win. They advance to the second round of the playoff. They will face the Oklahoma City Thunder. And hopefully for their sake, Anthony Alex can come back and play. He wants to play. He's pushing to play. Apparently, him and the medical staff will make a final decision at some point today whether or not they're going to clear him for the series. On Friday, we had the Pistons beat the Magic 93-79. What a turn of events. The Magic were up by 22 points at the half. They missed 23 straight shots in the fourth quarter. I think they had one field goal in the entire fourth quarter. Missed 23 straight shots in the second half. That is absurd. You could take, just chuck the ball up 23 times and probably have it go in twice just based off luck. That is absolutely insane. Just 79 points the whole game. 32 and 10 forced steals for Kate Cunningham. Orlando 23 straight misses. Yikes. They got outscored 55 to 19 in the second half. They scored 8 points in the fourth quarter. You had the Raptors beat the Cavs 112-110 in overtime. Crazy ending. Evan Mobley, who had 26 and 14 in the loss. He hits a 2-point shot very late in the last, I think, 10 or 15 seconds to tie it. Raptors miss a 3 at the end of regulation. But RJ Barrett, a 3 from the top of the key, gets a crazy bounce in the final 2 seconds. Raptors win, force a game 7 in Cleveland. And Lakers finish with the Rockets 98-78. They win by 20. They win the series in 6 games. They move on to Western Conference. Oh, excuse me. I made a mistake. The Timberwolves are going to face the San Antonio Spurs. So Lakers will face off against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Rockets are done, of course, didn't have Kevin Durant for most of the series. Lakers move on to the second round of the postseason. This past weekend, Saturday, Game 7, Philly and Boston. Sixers win 109-100. The Boston Celtics did not have Jason Tatum in the game. He was listed as a knee injury. I really think it was a calf injury. Remember, last year in the playoffs. He hurt his calf, I think against the Knicks. Tried to play through it. He might have even hurt it in the first round. I mean, maybe even the very end of the regular season, I forget. He ends up tearing his Achilles, of course, in the second round series in game four against the Knicks. Obviously, did not return. We thought he missed the whole year. Ends up returning, I think, in February. And so he gets nicked up in game six, did not play for game seven, which is honestly was the right move, even though it was a game seven. 30, 11, and 7 for Tyrese Maxey. Big game for him. 33, 9, 3 blocks for Jaylen Brown in the loss. Philly moves on. They will face the New York Knicks in the second round of the postseason. Should be a very exciting series. Rematch of 2 years ago in the first one when the Knicks beat them in 6 games. It was a really crazy series. Every game was really, really close for the most part. I think the Knicks only outscored the Sixers by like maybe 2 points in the 6 games. It was a crazy series. Hopefully, I'm not one of those again. And for my sake as a fan, hopefully the Knicks are able to win, and I think they will. On Sunday, we had two more game sevens. Pistons beat the Magic 116-94. At the half, Pistons can't start to pull away. They went up by, I think, 11 at the half and kind of never looked back. He had 32 and 12 assists. Big game for Paolo Banchero, 38, 9, and 6. But the rest of the Orlando Magic could not buy a shot to save their life. Let's just look at this. Okay, Banchero was 14 of 25. Jalen Suggs was 2 of 9. This man was 5 of 10. Wendell Carter was only 3 of 7. They only went 4 deep on the bench. Anthony Black was just 4 of 12. As a team, they shot just 41% from the field, 33% from 3, and only 73% from the line, which isn't terrible on 30 attempts, but just not good enough. Big game from Cage. Tobias Harris had 30 and 9, including 5 threes. The third time in Pistons history they've had a pair of teammates have 30 each at least in a playoff game. I think the first time since the late 70s. The Pistons also did not go very deep on their bench. But they get the job done. And those two guys really led the way for the Pistons. No one else really did a whole lot. Durant had 15, 15. Duncan Robinson had 10, but on 4 of 13 shooting, just 2 of 10 from 3. Alsar only had 8, but he was helpful on the defensive end. The only guy who played more than 2 minutes off the bench outside of Dennis Jenkins, who did get them 16 on 4 threes. Was Javonte Green had played 14 minutes, and then Isaiah Stewart played 8 minutes. No one else played more than 2 minutes off the bench. The Pistons get the job done. They avoid losing the first round to an 8 seed. They come back down 3 games to 1. And the Orlando Magic have fired Jamal Mosley, their head coach. This is the right move. I get they take a 1 seed to game 7, but you're up 3 games to 1. 23 missed shots in the second half in game 6 at home is just despicable. At the end of the day, last year, they were a play-in team. The year before that, they won 47 games and were a playoff team. Almost beat the Cavs in the first round that year. This year, they trade 4 unprotected firsts for Desmond Bane. Johnson wasn't overpay, but still, 4 unprotected firsts, you got to make a run. And you were arguably worse. I think you end up with, 43 wins, and you end up losing in the first round. Going into the year, a lot of people thought the Magic would be a top 3 team. A lot of people had them ahead of the Knicks going into the season. Felt, top 3, top 4 team in the East, chances to maybe even go to the finals, and they lose in the first round. They were mediocre all year. Offensively, did not get any better, even with one of the league's best shooters, supposedly, and probably got even worse defensively. They were still good defensively, but they weren't quite as elite. And in Orlando, they had 45 wins this year, but the East also got a whole lot worse. But team which is just as mediocre as it was last year. And Jamal Mosley is out. So we'll see who they bring in to be their next head coach. Cavs beat the Raptors 114 to 102. This was not complete domination, but back and forth in the first half. 1 point Raptors had a 13-point lead midway through the second quarter. But then Cavs made a monstrous third quarter, put them up by 19 going into the fourth quarter. Raptors made a late push. I think at 1 point cut to 11 or 12 in the last few minutes of the fourth quarter, but Raptors hang on. They win by 12. They had 22 and 19 and 3 blocks for Jared Allen. So big game for Jared Allen. Puts the Cavs on his back to an extent. Cavs win in 7. Very good series. Really good effort by the Toronto Raptors in this series, going down 2-0 and making it to game 7. They had a very successful season after a couple of rough years. 46 wins for the Toronto Raptors. But Cavs win in 7. They move on to the second round of the postseason. they will face the Detroit Pistons in the second round in the postseason. It's gonna be an interesting series because Cavs haven't gone out of the second round since the Donovan Mitchell trade, which at this point you could argue has been a failure as a result, as good as Donovan Mitchell has played for them. And the Pistons, look, they're really young, but they're obviously had a fantastic regular season. A lot of people had them coming out of the East, even I thought they would come out of the East, as much as I love the Knicks. But, they looked rough at times in that first round series, but came on strong at the end. That's going to be a very interesting second round playoff series. So, second round is set. The Knicks will host the 76ers in the West, OKC against the Lakers, and Spurs against the Minnesota Timberwolves. To finish up the basketball segment, the Dallas Mavericks have hired Masai Ujiri as their new team president and alternate governor. Of course, fired president of basketball ops Nico Harrison early in the season. Obviously, infamously made the horrendous Luka Doncic trade last year. He gets fired. Masai Ujiri, a very accomplished executive, was with the Toronto Raptors until he was fired right after the NBA draft, actually this past season. Was with them for 12 years, did a really good job there. Of course, won a championship. He built the championship team in 2019, had the balls to go out, knowing it was only for 1 year, trade a Raptors legend in DeMar DeRozan and Jakob Poeltl and the first round draft selection for Kawhi Leonard. Excuse me, it was DeMar DeRozan. No, yeah, it was DeRozan, Poeltl, and a one for Kawhi, and Danny Green was also in that deal. He was an underrated piece of that team as well, Danny Green. And he also fired the coach of the year from the previous year, Dwayne Casey, and promoted Nick Nurse, which also worked out. So overall, very good NBA executive, and he will be taking over in Dallas as their team president. So to finish off, just want to talk about Anthony Volpe very, very quickly. He's going to stay in the minor leagues. He's been hurt all year. I think he might got hurt in spring, or maybe it was all-season surgery. He completed his rehab assignment. The way they did it was weird. Like, he started in AAA at one point, and then they almost demoted him to AA. It was very weird how they were doing his rehab assignment. And he was playing in AAA, and he's fully rehabilitated from his injury, but they're going to keep him in the minor leagues. Look, the guy isn't good. He's a terrible hitter. The guy hits 210, 220. A little bit of power, can give you maybe 15 or 20 homers, but doesn't run produce. Terrible base runner. Horrendously bad shortstop. Was horrendous in that postseason run last year. Jose Clubbers played well. He's the better player, better shortstop. This is the right move. As embarrassing as it is to have a guy who's supposed to be one of your young building blocks and a former first round pick, a guy who cashed in and Mood are obsessed with for no reason, he is going to stay in the minor leagues, and that's the right move. Brief news about wrestling. Even knows I haven't really covered it much. WrestleMania, I'm just tired of the WWE. They're going to fold soon at this point. The New Day, as well as Tonga Loa and Jason Mateo, have left WWE. It's really disappointing what this company has become. The fact that the New Day are not WWE lifers. Like, by the way, Kofi Kingston, he's been going to the Hall of Fame twice. Look at his resume. Obviously, he'll have Kofi Mania forever. He was WWE champion. He was Intercontinental champion, I think, 4 times. He was US champion, I think, 3 times, maybe 4 times. I think he's a 15-time tag team champion. Most of them coming with the New Day, most of them with Big E and with Xavier Woods. One of them, not one of them, a couple of them were without Big E. It was just him and Woods, maybe 2 or 3 of them. And he also won a couple with R-Truth early in his career. Might have somebody else as a part of early in his career as well. Just an incredible career for Kofi Kingston. All those great Royal Rumble saves all over the years. Just an incredible career. It's a shame that Xavier Woods never got a true singles run outside of the King of the Ring that he won years ago. Because he was a very underrated wrestler. Could have been a really real asset in the mid card. Did a lot for wrestling with his YouTube channel, Up, Down, Down. It's really a shame that he won't finish his career in WWE. And the New Day is completely gone because Big E obviously had to retire because of the neck injuries. And now Kofi and Woods are leaving. And they're going to be somewhere soon. I can honestly see TNA for them, but more likely will probably be in AEW. And they're going to be tag team champions somewhere if they choose. And like I said, one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Kofi will go in twice. He'll go in as an individual. He does belong in the Hall of Fame as an individual. And maybe he'll obviously go in with Xavier and with Big E as a tag team and as a group. And Tonga Loa and Jason Mateo had left the WWE. Well, Tonga Loa was awful. He was, I think the problem was no one really knew who he was, first of all, when he debuted, a year and a half ago. And also, this is when, there was a lot of rumors about, Hikuleo, now Tonga, and WWE was going to debut and join Solo's faction. There was a lot of rumors that Zilla Fought 2 was going to join. There are still a lot of rumors that he still hasn't joined. And when I mean he showed up, I think he showed up and like he helped that team win. Everyone was like, "Oh my God, is it Hikuleo?" And then it ended up being Tonga Loa. I think we were all just kind of it was a bit of a letdown. And the guy botched a low blow at a PLA. He botched something on a table the other week. He botched holding up a championship last year. Just the guy is a botch artist. Terrible in the ring. Can't talk. This Mateo, what a fumble. Okay, this is one of the best wrestlers in the world. This is an Olympic medalist wrestler. He was incredible in New Japan. He was great in TNA. And truly a great wrestler, especially for a guy his size. But again, when he debuted and helped Fatu win that match, when Fatu was still rocking with Solo, nobody knew who the guy was, and he was presented so poorly. He should have been presented as an individual and gotten singles matches every single week. He's a guy who could have benefited maybe from wrestling, some guys like Braun Strowman and get put over by some of these giants and could have really made something of himself. And not even a year after he was brought in, he's being let go. And it really is a shame. And now the NFTs have been cut in half. It's just Soul Sakala, Tamatanga, and Toa And what a shame it truly is. But to finish off, I'm going to give you the top 7 quarterbacks who I believe are under the most pressure heading into this 2026 NFL season. Honorable mentions are going to be Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. I think Lamar's a great player. He's obviously a two-time MVP, but he's got to get it done in the playoffs. However, if he doesn't, are they going to look to move off of him? He's only got another year left on his deal, but he's due $84 million next year. He'll probably just get his contract restructured. Keep kicking that can down the road. But at some point, the guy's got to win a playoff game. He's almost 30 years old. And again, Josh Allen, incredible player, great quarterback. He's one of the best in the league overall. He MVP 2 years ago. But at some point, he's got to come up big in the playoffs. He did not play well against Denver last year and in the postseason. He's 30 years old. At some point, he's got to win a playoff game. That being said, will Buffalo just move on from outright if he does lose early in the playoffs again? Probably not. Those two teams are allergic to blaming those two guys. Number 7, Tyler Shough. This might seem unfair considering he doesn't even have a full season worth of games left, or he hasn't put a full season worth of games. But Tyler Shough, he was a second round pick. We were all surprised when he was drafted in the second round. We all thought this guy would probably be. I mean, at least I did. I had him graded as a day 3 guy coming out last year. He goes from the second round to the New Orleans Saints out of Louisville. Did play pretty well down the stretch for the Saints. The Saints went out and they added a bunch of weapons for him in the draft, including Jordan Tyson at the 8th overall selection. You signed Travis Etienne to a lot of money in the offseason. You have him and Alvin Kamara in that backfield now. So they're giving him a chance. They're giving him a real shot here. If he goes out and doesn't build off the momentum from last year and goes out there and doesn't play well, I can see the Saints, if they end up being really bad, just thinking because the quarterback class, which obviously this year was very bad, next year in the 27th is going to be very good, should be very good. I just think if they have an opportunity to draft a potential high-end quarterback prospect and move on from Tyler Shough, and he's a second-round pick of 2 years left on a rookie deal, they can move on from him for nothing. I'd be shocked they didn't take the opportunity. Also, another really bad year. You gotta think at some point they're gonna have to start looking at Mickey Loomis being like, you need to get out of this building. New GM's coming in, he's gonna want to probably choose his own quarterback. And at that point, you gotta worry about, is Kellen Moore gonna even stay? So put Shough at 7. Number 6 is Jalen Hurts. Look, I don't think Hurts is a bad quarterback, but he is massively overrated. He's an average starter who's on an elite team. Okay. He's a very inconsistent downfield passer. He's relatively accurate, but not the most accurate in the world. He's a decent athlete, not the best athlete out there. He's a good leader. He wins for the most part. He's won 10 plus games pretty much every single season. Obviously, he's a Super Bowl MVP. Has been a good postseason quarterback in the past throughout his career. But my thoughts are, all right, so they're obviously getting A.J. Brown out of that room. They revamped the receiver room. You draft Mekhi Lemon. You bring in Dontavian Wicks. You draft a tight end in Eli Stowers. You obviously still have Saquon Barkley. You have Lane Johnson healthy on the offensive line. You make the offensive coordinator change. You move on from Kevin Patullo. You make the change. You bring in Declan Doyle. And another mediocre year for him where if he's still holding back that offense, at some point you're like, all right, the guy just isn't right for the system, whether it's because he does get along with Sirianni, you have to make a change there as well. I don't know how much pressure he's on. He's on that huge contract. He won a Super Bowl MVP 2 years ago. But I have to think another rough year from him, where at least, some people in that building who I've heard are already kind of growing tired of him, say he's not very coachable, would start to look at the leaders in that team and be like, maybe a change is needed. And Howie Roseman is, the guy wants to win. He's the best GM in football. He will make it work. Number 5, I have Baker Mayfield. So Baker has done a good job remaking himself with since leaving the Cleveland Browns, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, turned into a very solid quarterback. First part of last year, he was absolutely bowling the heck out, was on his way to an MVP finalist campaign, but struggled in the second half of the year. I think was playing through some injuries. But this year, he's in the last year of his deal. Maybe gets an extension before the year. I haven't heard anything about that. I don't know if it's going to happen. If I think it's not going to happen. Last year of his contract. If he has another year where he's inconsistent like that, isn't able to win the big games, him might look at him and be like, "Look, you've played some good football for us. You took us to the playoffs a couple of times, but you gotta think another year where they don't win that god awful NFC South. There's gonna be sweeping changes in Tampa, and we'll start probably at the top with Todd Bowles with Jason Light." But, I could see, a new GM comes in if he thinks, I might want to get just overall younger. That is an older roster. I could see them moving off of Baker Mayfield. If the guy goes out and bounces back and has a really good year, I'm sure they would at the very least franchise tag him and go from there. Otherwise, I could see Tampa being like, maybe this thing with Baker Mayfield has just run its course. Number 4, Kyler Murray. I think these first 4 are more obvious. The first 3 I named were kind of niche. Kyler Murray, look, he obviously was right out of town in Arizona. They're paying him like 20 or 30 million, whatever it is, to play for whatever team. He signed a 1-year deal for the veteran minimum with the Minnesota Vikings. He's got Justin Jefferson, who might be the best receiver in the NFL. In my opinion, he is, at least talent for talent. You have Jordan Addison. You have TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, and Jordan Mason in the backfield. If the offensive line is healthy, it should be better than it was last year. Kim Collins is a great offensive line. If Kyler can't lead his team to the postseason, I don't see a team giving him a starting job ever again, especially considering he's not a very good leader. And I don't expect us to go very well. I don't think he fits that offense whatsoever. I don't expect him to be beating the playoffs at all, especially out of that division. But if Kyler doesn't go out there and play really well, I don't see him being the starter ever again. He might stick around the league because he's started enough games for a #1 overall pick from a Heisman winner. But a full-time star, those days are going to be over if he goes out there and struggles again with the Minnesota Vikings. Number 3 is Daniel Jones. You went out and got paid like a top-level quarterback because he had one good half season. Kind of reminds us of Daniel Jones' year in 2022. And he got that huge deal with the Giants. Then he plays for 2 years and not 4 years. But I think on a per-year basis, it's actually even more money. I think it's $44 million a year, could be up to $50 million a year. It's coming off a torn Achilles. I get it. But they went all in last year. Trent Grossal's gone. They don't have a first-round pick until 2028. But you still have Alec Pierce, who you paid all that money. You still have Josh Downs. You still have Tyler Warren, Jonathan Taylor. There's no reason why he can't bounce back from his injury and play like he was before he got hurt, which was some really damn good football. I had the Colts at 8-2. I think first in the AFC at that point. If he comes back and struggles and looks like the old Daniel Jones with the Giants, that's going to get Chris Ballard fired. At least it has to. It's going to get people fired. And within a year or two, he will never get a starting job ever again. Number 2, Bryce Young. The Panthers traded DJ Moore, the first overall pick in the following draft, and other draft selections to trade up to get Bryce Young. 3 years in, he has not won a playoff game yet. He's got embarrassed since that god-awful rookie year, but he still is not even an above-average quarterback, in my opinion. It is make it or break it, put up or shut up for Bryce Young. He needs to continue to improve and really take a step forward this year, definitely got to win that division, I would think, especially considering the roster, which I think looks pretty good. That's what they did in these last couple of off seasons. They Dan Moore actually done an underrated job with the Carolina Panthers. If he's still inconsistent and still is not, he's proven that he cannot be a true franchise quarterback. Carolina's got to be thinking going into his last year of his contract, we can't pay this guy a boatload of money. Maybe we should move on. So he's at two. Number one is CJ Stroud. Now I get, obviously those were top two picks in the same draft. Stroud as a rookie was incredible, was off the rookie of the year. Bryce obviously has not had a year even close to that. But he's been so bad these last 2 years. I get it. He's had some very bad offensive line plays, two different play callers. But this year, he gets Tank Dell back, healthy in the wide receiver room. They went out and got Dave Montgomery, a true running back one. They went out and improved the offensive line. Year two of Nick Campbell's offense. There is no excuse for this offense to be at least competent. If they had a competent offense, they would have been in at least the AFC Championship game. Would definitely beaten the Patriots in that game if Stroud was even competent in that game. Davis Mills with the same crappy offense looked even better than Stroud did. He looked more than competent in 4 games he played in the place of an injured Stroud last year. I said at halftime again in that Patriots game, put in Davis Mills. Stroud has one more year to turn this thing around. Otherwise, that first year is going to seem, although it's only been 3 years ago, it's going to seem like a lot longer. And they will be definitely looking to move on if Stroud has another below average season. That's all I got for you guys today. Till next time, so long, and have a great day.